welcome. If you caught my earlier spin video, then you know that this video is coming. It's my first video of this new series that I'm trying called Dietitian's Digest, where I basically give you my dietitian perspective on nutrition services, products, or anything related to nutrition really. Let's get started with this review of HelloFresh. Rewind, this is not sponsored or anything, so this is a completely unbiased review. Alright, so I feel like most people, if you stumbled across this video or if you clicked on it, you have some sort of idea of what HelloFresh is. Just to give you the rundown so we're on the same page, it's essentially a meal delivery service where you get the ingredients and you make the meal yourself. The IKEA version of meal delivery. There's so many different reviews available to you on YouTube for the taste and the service and all of that. Let's review it from just the nutrition perspective, the nutrition facts, which you cannot deny because they're facts. Let's talk about the pros first. What are the benefits of HelloFresh? The first thing, probably what I benefited from the most by trying HelloFresh, is probably that you get exposure to trying new meals, new recipes, overall enhancing your food skills and your ability to prepare different meals in the kitchen. So that's where I benefited the most because I got exposure to different herbs that I wouldn't normally try. Tarragon, game changer. We'll never have chicken the same way again. So that's pro number one. Number two is that overall it gets you to start moving away from buying all of your meals out at fast food restaurants and bringing your meals back to the home and preparing them at home and doing all of that yourself, which kind of ties into the first pro. Pro number three is that you're starting to think about using more whole foods when you prepare foods, or meals, which is obviously what we want from a nutrition standpoint. We want to start using less processed food items and more whole foods, natural ingredients, minimal salt, sugar, and fat added. But that's also where we start to see some of the downfalls of HelloFresh. So let's get into that now. If you look at the nutrition facts of HelloFresh, you can find it on your ingredient bag here. So when you order HelloFresh, all of your ingredients come in this bag, and you get all of the exact portions of exactly what you need inside. It says it right on the bag. So you get this, it tells you what your meal is that you chose, so you already know kind of what you're getting. But then the nutrition facts is right there in a little itty bitty section, and it's also available online when you look up the recipe for the meal that you're getting. What I found was that although you're using very fresh whole ingredients, when you get to adding spices and condiments, that's where you start to see kind of a decline in the nutritional value of the food that you're preparing once you start adding added saturated fats, which aren't as harmful to your health as previously thought. But when you'd rather have the most health benefits from your fats, the healthy fats, you start to get added sodium or salt and added sugar. So a lot of the meals could be a little bit shocking to you as far as how much sodium is actually in them. So close to the recommended daily allowance of sodium is in one meal of HelloFresh, hovering around 1,000 milligrams of sodium, if not higher. One of the meals was about 1,700, a little bit higher than that. So that is way more than you want to be having for one meal. So if you start to think about HelloFresh, this is true with anything that you're preparing. If you have the whole food ingredients, but then you start to add all these added sauces and added condiments, that's when the nutrition value can start to decline. That's when you start to see added salt and sodium, which really affects your blood pressure. So if you're battling with any type of condition where you really need to focus and have more control over what you're putting in your food and what you're eating, HelloFresh might be difficult for you to navigate. All of the meals that I tried were from the Pronto plan. You can try to remove some of those added salts that it tells you. You get these jumbo recipe cards with all of your meal choices, and on the back it tells you kind of what step to do and what to add, and sometimes you have to have your own pantry items. It assumes that you have salt and oil and stuff like that. So you can not add the salt to kind of improve the nutrient profile of the meals, but there are still pre-packaged spice mixes and seasonings that you won't be able to really control how much sodium is in your meal. And when I say sodium, just think of it as the same as salt. So that is where the nutrient value of these meals starts to decline, and definitely something to be aware of. You can beforehand look at the nutrition facts tables, but across the board, I looked at other meals that I didn't get. The sodium or salt content of them is all still pretty high. The fat content and the carb content and the protein content kind of varies. I think overall, big picture, if you look at your plate, there's a good protein source, a good carbohydrate rich source, and then you get your healthy fats if you're using plant oils, and then there's a vegetable for most of the meals. So overall, in that sense, it's balanced. But then when you look at the nutrition facts, it might be higher fat than what you're looking for, higher saturated fats, so not necessarily the healthy fats, and the carb sources. Sometimes there was a lot of added sugars to the meals, and fiber content wasn't that high for any meal that I looked at or any meal that I tried. I think it hovers around 3 or 4 grams of fiber. The most fiber that I had in my meals was about 10 grams of fiber, which is great for 10 grams, but most of them were around 3 to 4 grams of fiber. So that's something to take into account as well. HelloFresh is more along the lines of eating out than it is making homemade meals yourself. And that is definitely something to keep in mind as far as whether or not you're gonna subsist on HelloFresh meals for a long period of time. It's not necessarily, although it's marketed as fresh ingredients, which it is, as soon as you start piling on condiments and ingredients and spice mixes that you don't really know the composition of, that's when the nutritional value starts to decline. As far as the vegetarian meal plans that I looked at, the sugar content was the highest in those meals, as far as 27 grams of sugar per meal, which is not something to really strive for. Ideally, overall, if you're thinking about what you're looking for in a really good healthy meal, you want to have obviously the whole foods, the fresh fruits and vegetables, and a good carb source that provides you lots of fiber. And usually, well, always, you should be striving to choose the whole grain or the whole wheat option. With the HelloFresh, you usually don't, it's usually white options. So white rice was in my meals. So like I was saying, the pro of HelloFresh is that you get exposure to new recipes, new meals, you increase your food skills, then you take those food skills with you, and then you can adapt these recipes that you learned and modify them to increase the nutritional value. That is probably the biggest benefit of HelloFresh. Also, the portion control is not really a benefit because a lot of the meals were around 700 calories. There was one meal that I had that was around 500 calories, so it depends on what your requirements are to determine if that's an appropriate amount for you. But for most people trying to lose weight, probably that much in one meal is not going to support your nutritional goals. So that is something to keep in mind, and that is kind of my overview of HelloFresh. Be aware of what you're getting into. Always look at the nutrition facts. Make sure that you're not getting a lot of added fats, sugars, and salts into the meals that you're eating, just for overall health. Try to increase that fiber, choose whole grains, and I wanted to increase the nutritional value of the meal that I love so dearly, so I got this creamy tarragon chicken one. It was amazing, but I wanted to improve it a little bit. Instead of using sour cream, you can always use Greek yogurt. Instead of using higher salt options, reduce the sodium, so that's what I did. Basically, the dietitian edit of this recipe, which is available on my Instagram. Recipe will be found here. Oh my gosh, so delicious, amazing. These are all the jumbo cards. I should have showed you this at the beginning. These are all the meals that I tried. So, white rice, substitute for brown rice, whole grain rice, any other ancient grain that gives you a lot of fiber. Oh, I should answer whether or not I would recommend this to my clients. And the answer is, it depends. So if somebody is coming to me, they have minimal food skills, they're always eating out, they really rely on a lot of processed food items, then HelloFresh would be an improvement in their overall health. But if you're somebody starting out at a higher baseline of food skills, you really know how to prepare your own meals already, you don't eat out a lot, and you know the importance of whole foods, minimally processed foods, and you already incorporate a lot of those into your diet, HelloFresh might not meet, it might be actually a decrease or not an improvement, it might be an impairment of your overall nutrient intake. A little bit deceiving because it's supposed to be, when you think fresh, you think overall healthiness. But just keep in mind that these meals, for some of them, are no better than eating out, but you can gain some benefit as far as food skills. Questions, comments, I'd actually love to know if you've tried HelloFresh, if you continue to use HelloFresh, and what your experiences are. Post them in the comments and I'd be sure to read them. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And if you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for watching the first episode of Dietitian's Digest. Thanks, guys.